Hey, everybody. Welcome back to that 70s Card Show. My name's John Keating, and I'm present and accounted for. And it is my favorite time of the year, fall in the Northeast. Baseball's almost done, they say, if you read the papers. Football is chugging along. The leaves are falling. All the leaves are brown. Sky is not quite gray yet, but we do appreciate this time of the year. Shorts and sweatshirt weather, folks. So put some shorts on and run around with a sweatshirt. You can always peel a layer off, but it's hard to get. Yeah. Hey, so let's talk a little bit about ghosts. Do you folks believe in ghosts? It's that time of year, like I said, and up until very recently, I fancied myself a non-believer in spirits and ghosts and all that stuff. I have lived a very interesting life where I feel like I've been around the block before. Sometimes things happen that I've seen before. Sometimes it's easier than it should be. Although life can be very difficult, sometimes I feel like it's all been. I've lived it several times, so I call that luck. There's no other explanation for it. So, not to get too spiritual here or philosophical, but I do believe a ghost has visited me and been with me for a very long time. And what does that mean? I like to call it in my collection. There is a ghost in the machine. Now, Ghost in the Machine, of course, is a philosophical movement, I guess. I'm not going to get that deep. It is also the name of a Police album from the early 80s. But what I will tell you that is in my business, I work in a business that uses a lot of technology. And sometimes in this digital age, you can't quite figure out how to solve a problem because the logic is out the door. Or a problem goes away, comes and goes away, and you don't know why or how it fixed itself. But there will have been perhaps a visit by a ghost in your machine. So we use that term a lot in my business. Outside of that, you can call it a mind body exercise. But regardless, there has been a collection ghost roaming around for a very long time. And if you know anything about me or have listened to my shows in the previous incarnations, you'll know that I was born in Philadelphia, and in the early portion, January or so, 1974, Keating family moved from the Olney section of Philadelphia, which was home of Fleer baseball cards or Fleer gum, I guess you would call that. Early 1974, moved to the suburbs. Nice house for a bunch of Hicks, or I wouldn't even call us Hicks. Call us city people, row house people. All of a sudden, we had 2 floors and a basement and a garage and all that stuff. So plenty of room for a family of 5. A nice little chunk of land, if you call a quarter acre a nice chunk of land, it was. Compared to our previous lives of living in houses attached to other people's houses. But anyway, plenty of room, except for a box about the size of a large microwave oven filled with baseball cards. For some reason, that box could never make its way in to the actual house. It lived on the porch for a very long time. And at the top of that box was a 1973 Willie Mays baseball card in a New York Mets uniform, an aged Willie Mays taken at Shea Stadium in the New York Mets pinstripe home uniform. Of course, some of us would say 74 World Series card is his last playing days card, but 73 generally recognized as the last go around for Willie Mays as a baseball card phenom. He was, of course, one of, if not the greatest baseball players ever. And something that I've been in denial about for a very long time, but we'll get that in a minute. So, again, 3 young boys living in the suburbs, 60 acres of woods behind our house to explore. Front yards, side yards, backyards, bikes, baseballs, footballs, all that stuff. For some reason, that box sat on the porch for weeks, perhaps months, until having passed it, going to school every day and coming home from school and going out to play and coming in from playing, someday that box just wasn't there anymore. And it wasn't a monumental event in anybody's life back then. But looking back on it, of course, it was a pretty big deal. A box filled with 60s and 70s baseball cards, thousands of them. None of them mine. They belong to Mike and Dick, my two older brothers. Their real names are Joe and Paul. Anyway, disinterest set in. As a city kid living in the suburbs, suddenly you didn't care about baseball cards anymore. Gone were they. And about a year later, I would get the itch that remains to this day to collect cards. And yes, mom threw out that box of cards, but I will tell you that my mother was an incredible enabler of my collection, bought me cards often, kept my cards throughout my many moves. And anyway, mom is not the guilty culprit here. It was those darn boys who just found other interests at a young age. So, with that said, here we are. 2024, Willie Mays has passed away. I think he died recognized the way he should have been recognized, and hopefully he was at peace with that. He was recognized and beloved by most baseball fans, and I was probably the last one to come on board, and I don't know why that was, but I can't help to think it had something to do with that cardboard box that sat through the early winter months of 1974 on our front porch in Audubon, Pennsylvania. And perhaps it was a subliminal bitterness I displayed towards Willie Mays. If it had been anybody else, if it had been Bob Montgomery, then maybe I just would have hated Bob Montgomery. But for some reason, Willie Mays uh, always kept him at an arm's length. And that included my collecting. Of course, when I really started collecting, Willie Mays was not part of the scene. Hank Aaron still was. You could buy Hank Aaron cards in packs in 75. You could get Hank Aaron cards in packs in 76. And anyway, there was for some reason the infancy of my collecting, and then obviously throughout my collecting, Willie Mays was not a big deal. I still harbored that subliminal bitterness, though. So collecting goes on. Always been a big fan of the vintage stuff, obviously, as well as collecting contemporary stuff as I went along. Late 90s, I started buying up baseball cards on eBay when eBay rolled around, right? And what did I do? I bought a boatload of Hank Aaron's. I bought a boatload of Mickey Mantles, right? All these beautiful slabs, Richie Ashburns, all that stuff. Of course, I'm a Philly guy, so that explains that. But was buying a lot of slabs and getting them for fairly cheap. At the time, they were probably deemed expensive, but this day and age, you know, many folks will tell you that they have great collections because they were buying at the right time. And for some reason, I got lucky back then buying all that stuff. Ended up with pretty much the entire Topps run of Mickey Mantle, except for his 52. Same thing with Hank Aaron. So Willie Mays, big hole in my collection, right? And a denial, both publicly and internally, about his place in the sport. So great baseball player. I have some friends up there in Cooterville who like the Willie Mays, and I've come around to the Willie Mays. I'm on the Willie Mays train. I'm at the very, very back end, but in the caboose. But I finally came to appreciate him over the last few years. Unfortunately, that also coincided with the COVID boom and his impending demise, which, as we know, that is a very real thing in our hobby. Buy cards, player's going to die. My favorite player in the world, Carl Yastrzemski, he's not going to be around much longer, right? So, it's just a natural thing to want to stock up on those cards. So here I am in 2024 on cusp of completing some sets, and even a few years ago, my 1968 set, the last card I had to get was a Willie Mays. I'm 2 cards away from completing my 1954 set, and one of those is Willie Mays. I'm 1 card away from completing my 1964 Topps Giant set, and that's Willie Mays, of course. So 53, it's the same thing. I'm in the 90s, the mid 90s on 90% of 53 completed. Same problem. In the high 80s for 55 set, need a Willie Mays. So he is the big banger in most of these sets that I need to complete. So got on that train late due to my own personal hurdles and handicaps that I've placed on Willie Mays. So here I am playing catch up, fall of 2024. And what a fine time to recognize, in my opinion, the ghost I had in my machine and connecting the dot finally to why it was there. And it was that box on that porch, thousands of cards. There could have been Nolan Ryan rookies in there and Johnny Bench rookies and Thurman Munson rookies in there and everybody's rookies from that time and possibly even some Tom Seavers. I don't know, but the thing that sticks out to me is Willie Mays's last playing days card, a forlorn Willie Mays at the end of the rope, end of the line of a brilliant career, a career played in the Polo Grounds where unless you were a dead pull hitter, you weren't racking up the home runs. A career played in mostly at Candlestick Park where you had to hit the bejesus out of the ball to get it to go over the fence. And Willie Mays was the total package, of course. He was the player that had all the talent in the world, but the rare player who took advantage of that. So that takes physical acuity as well as mental acuity. I have no doubt that Willie Mays, for all his physical feats, was probably one of the smarter baseball players to grace the diamond as well. Not sure why he didn't win 10 World Series rings, surrounded by people like Willie McCovey and Orlando Cepeda and Gaylord Perry and Juan Marichal and all that stuff. But none of my business, I guess. But he did what he did. He appeared on countless Topps cards, whether they were leader cards, um, multiplayer cards, highlights cards, stuff like that. But Willie Mays left his impact on the hobby. John Keating was one of the slowest people to recognize that. So trying to make up for lost time now, both appreciating Willie Mays and getting him into my collection because as a set collector, he is the guy that continually pops up as the biggest fish I need to complete my sets. So hopefully you folks don't have ghosts in your machines, your collections. And if you do, if you have, we all have regrets, but man, it's taking 40 plus years to recognize the limitations I placed on myself because of that box and that face staring back at me from that box. Man, it's yes, we're lifelong learners, but some of us take an entire life to learn simple lessons. So hopefully the struggle for you is not real like it is for me, but I'm anticipating this time next week after a trip to Boston, I will have the 54 set done and I'll have my 64 Topps Giants set. Maybe I'll start marching towards completing those last dozen or so cards of the 1953 Topps set. So keep chugging away, folks. Have at it. Little self criticism isn't bad. Analyzing the way you've done things in the past and just maybe pivoting, as they say on LinkedIn, is a good thing. You don't have to change everything you do, but maybe check on your mechanics, your fundamentals, your spring training stuff. Maybe you need to make a slight adjustment like I've had to do here late in life and very expensive, I guess, self-adjustment. So anyway, cheers to everybody. Happy Halloween. Happy everything you have coming your way. And looking forward to making several appearances over the next few weeks at some bucket list card shows. So cheers to everybody. Thanks for listening and ramble on, my friends. Please ramble on.